welcome back to another episode of BizBlend where we explore the stories, strategies, and the smarts behind brilliant minds of all ages. Well, listeners, today's episode is super special. I'm your host, Sana, as always, and today's episode is a bit of a curveball in the best possible way. Now, imagine being able to recall history faster than you scroll your Instagram, dominate competitions like a seasoned pro, and give TED style talks, all before finishing elementary school. Our guest today, well, she has done all that and much more than that. Listeners, meet Everest Nevraumont. She is only 10 years old and already a three-time regional history lead champion in Texas, the first person ever to pull that off. She is currently ranked third nationally, a speaker at global events, and a genius when it comes to learning techniques like memory palaces and spaced repetition. And oh, did I mention she could probably beat us all in a debate about wars of succession? Well, let's dive into the mind of this remarkable young competitor and find out what we can learn from her when it comes to business, learning, and high performance. So, Everest, welcome to this blend, and it's an absolute honor having you with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so first things first, Everest, what does a day in the life of a 10-year-old history B champion actually look like, if you can share with us?
Well, first of all, I just go to school, do all that, and then I come home, and I usually work with my dad a lot on history, unless there's any homework I gotta do. And then after that, I go to gymnastics, and then when we come back, we do a bunch more history. He teaches me the topic, and then we do cards on that, like spaced repetition.
Wow. So what makes you feel fascinated with history? I mean, were you fascinated with it, since you started to understand about it, or something, maybe a moment sparked that interest within you?
I think I've always been really fascinated with history. When I was, like, little, I was about 18 months old, maybe, like, a year and a half,
Okay.
and, my dad and I, we were sitting at dinner, and I said, "Dad, let's talk about something." And I said and he said, "Well, what do you wanna talk about?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he's something, he's like I don't remember what it was. He said, "Let's talk about" yeah, French Revolution. He said,
Uh,
"Talk about the French Revolution." And I was like, "Okay, what's the French Revolution?" So
okay.
we learned all about the French Revolution, and whenever we were sitting down from dinner after that, I always kept asking more about the French Revolution. I think that was probably the earliest memory I have of doing doing history and being really interested in it. Also,
Mhm.
it's like really influential to learn the past because those who don't learn the past are doomed to repeat it.
Lovely, lovely. That is so inspiring, Everest. And this kind of focus and practice is incredible. I'm very confident because many of our listeners are business owners, entrepreneurs. They say they're always building something even in downtime. So it's really relatable. Um, okay, now let's talk about the techniques you have mastered, Everest. Learning techniques like spaced repetition and memory palaces. Um, and I believe honestly these are strategies which I guess the entrepreneurs can benefit from. So can you maybe give a little bit of glimpse about these techniques? I mean, how do you actually use these techniques to absorb so much info?
I think the first technique, a technique that we really started with, was just reading books, reading stuff that I was interested in. And then we got that and we put them in card decks so we could go through the card decks. But then we had a bajillion cards and I couldn't do all those. So we found this app called Inky. And Inky is like a spaced repetition app where you put cards in and it figures they'll have a 90% chance of getting it in 5 days if they get it right the first time. And then when it comes back in 5 days, you answer it And if you get it right, then it might come back in like 10 or 15 days. But if you get it wrong, it'll come back in like 10 minutes. So it gets you so you always have a 90% chance of answering it.
Hmm.
And that helps you memorize it down cold. And another thing we use that's also really helpful for things like presidents and states is called a memory palace. A memory palace is you pick a place that you know really well, like your house, your school, and you start in one room and you put a president, a state, something there, and you put a object or picture, something that'll make you remember that. Something really abstract, really something you'd never think to do, but it reminds you of that. For George Washington, we could use like an alien who's washing something, or like you're washing clothes. Say something that's not a very great example. There's not a lot of things you can do for Washington, but like you think of stuff like that, and then you put it all around. So then you're able to think of those things and recite all the presidents, or recite all the states. And every five, you put like five things, so you know it's five, so you can find a number of president too. Because if you ask for the 30th president, you can just think, oh, it's obviously Calvin Coolidge because he's smoking 30 cigarettes.
Mhm. Oh, that's quite interesting. It's like mnemonics. I mean, uh, you kind of associate, let's say, a name of the president or a palace or a name with something which kind of is an object or some association you use in daily life, and it's easy to recall that. That is brilliant and very actually simple yet brilliant in a way. So thank you so much for sharing that, Everest. Okay. And really, this puts a question in this context that sometimes we as grown-ups, we kind of complicate or overcomplicate learning. But learning can be really easy. And one more thing which learn, I'm learning from you, and I'm very confident our listeners will learn from you, is the right use of technology to, learn and gain information, not just scroll and just kind of have that brain rot. So that is really 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 motivating and encouraging, Everest. Okay. And let's talk about losing. So you once competed solo against teams of older kids. You didn't win, but you came back stronger. And I think this mindset, resilience, reflection, learning from your mistake or your failure, and then bouncing back, it is so key in business or entrepreneurship also. So, what did that moment teach you about yourself?
I think it taught me that there's a lot of kids that are better than me, even though I'd already won a couple at that time. There's still a lot of kids that are better than me, and this is probably going to be about the level of difficulty that nationals is. So it was like, I can't expect to do what I did in regionals. I got to try a lot harder and study a lot harder in case kids are like this are at nationals.
Wow. Wow. And honestly, a lot of adults actually struggle with because mm, we kind of have that fear of facing the reality. But
Nobody likes me.
exactly, exactly. But I mean, you absolutely said it right that you got to understand that okay, there are better competitors or kids than me, and I have to prepare myself accordingly. Ah, that's a huge insight. So, Everest, with your regional wins and national ranking, there is a spotlight on you. It's a bit of a sensitive question. So, there is a pressure on you. So, how do you stay grounded when people expect you to break records and, be the first girl to win it all?
I think something that like I just need to practice and practice and practice. Look, I could just be doing like 20 minutes a day, and if I don't finish everything, so what? But we're learning a lot. We're spending like an hour and a half each day some days. And like just all that dedicated practice where I could just be giving up, we're actually doing it so that hopefully it's like gonna work and hopefully I'll get at least in finals.
Wow. That is brilliant. That's brilliant. All the best to you, Everest. And this is so wise because in leadership, um, we often say that you can't let praise or criticism or maybe success get too deep into your core. So that is really such a self-aware approach there. Um, okay, so um, I think you will be the best person. I should also take some suggestion from you, some advice from you. So if someone out there wants to get better, or let's say best at anything, whether it's sales or public speaking, starting something of their own, what's one Everest approved tip they can start doing today you would like to share with all of us?
A really good tip is just not only should you practice, but you should practice with some intent. Like the example you said, public speaker. If you want to be a public speaker and you're practicing speaking in front of your family, sure, that's great. But if your family's not giving you feedback and you're not learning anything from doing it in front of them, then there's no point in doing it at all. So do practice, but figure out what you want to practice and what your goal is. So figure out a goal for what you're trying to get and what it'll take to get that goal. And finding things to give you a lot of feedback, even if it could be harsh feedback, is way more helpful than no feedback at all.
I love that. I love that, Everest. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, lovely. That is gold. That is gold, listeners. So, Everest, before we wrap up, if our listeners would like to connect with you further to seek some wisdom from you, some golden nuggets from you, what's the best way to do that?
I have no idea. My dad does all that
Okay.
stuff.
Okay. So no need to worry about that. So I'll definitely go back to Edward on that, but I'll make sure to mention in the show notes for our listeners. And of course, Everest, I think this was such an inspiring conversation, and you are really setting such a good example for not only the younger generation out there, but all the adults as well. And you are not just teaching us about history; you are teaching us about the art of learning, the grit of competition, and the mindset it takes to aim high and stay grounded. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So to all of the BizBlend listeners, let today or this episode be reminder that age doesn't define ambition. And whether you are building a business or prepping for a B, strategy, curiosity, and resilience, they are your greatest tools. Before I wrap up, so Everest, what's next for you? I mean, what do you see? What's next for you? Have you like any uh goal or plan, something like that, which you would like to share, if it's okay with you?
I think so. First of all, I want to get into Harvard. And then next, I probably want to get like a job, like, I don't know, but something to do with like, I like designing, so maybe like engineering, mm, maybe like an archaeologist, because like you have to take a lot of history from that.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's a lot of really cool things that I could do, but I'm not sure. There's such good options. Probably like an engineer, because I think that's really interesting. Like designing bridges and stuff. There's so much intent and like I don't know what the word is, but so much things you got to think about, and so many things that could go wrong. You got to plan really carefully, to make sure that everything goes correctly. And I also really like drawing, so maybe I think uh like or maybe an architect, like an architect or an engineer, something like that.
And there's so much inspiration to take from history as well. Yeah.
Or maybe politics, because I think history plays a vital role in politics. And like bring it like learning from you can learn from past mistakes that other political leaders made, and then you like don't break your campaign promises, or else you won't get reelected. So stuff like that. I think politics might also be really fun.
Wow. Quite figured out, quite sorted. I guess I am still thinking. I'm like thinking, I never thought even about what excites me when I was 10-year old. I was just figuring out. I mean, so that is really, really inspiring once again, Everest, and all the best to you. Um, and keep blending your brilliance. Keep sharing the gifts of history with all of us, because history teaches us a lot. It is the foundation of us as a whole civilization or society. So thank you so much for what you are doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. It was so fun.
Yeah, definitely. So, to all of my listeners, that wraps up the conversation on BizBlend. Until next time, keep blending with brilliance, keep blending business with purpose. This is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.